A friend asked me what my process is for finding interesting ideas. So I'll show you what it looks like. Ultimately, my goal in the system is to find ideas that are not only interesting, but are hidden and undervalued by people in society. So I usually just pick a theme, and the first place I go is Amazon. So let's see, look for something with cities. So what I do is I start with some kind of obscure thinker like Lewis Mumford, who wrote, say, The City in History. And I use Amazon's recommendation system. So, right here, customers who viewed this item also viewed is sort of the gold mine. And then what I begin to do is I look for books that look like they have old covers. That's always a good place to start. And I this book, The Geography of Nowhere, sounds interesting. Pattern Language, I really like that book. Um, oh, this looks interesting. Ah, perfect. The social life of small urban places. Okay, so now I have three different books, and generally I like to look for older ideas. I think that it we're moving from a world that used to arbitrage space in terms of people would go travel to different countries to find interesting ideas, and now we're moving to a world that arbitrages time because of the way our social platforms are set up. They highly reward new things. So this came out in 1994. That's fairly interesting. I usually like older books. So we'll look through Christopher Alexander and see if there's anything that's interesting. And I'm just totally trusting my intuition. Crowds and Power, I've heard good things about that. I'll leave here. So now we're on William White, who is a famous sociologist. This book looks fascinating. Um, he's written about different aspects of basically the sociology of the post World War II era. And what I look for down here is people who say that there are new ideas here. So this book is a necessity to people who are studying urban spaces. And I read this book for school and it was interesting, helpful insights. It doesn't sound like it changed people's minds. I look for things that have big variance in reviews where certain people say this book literally changed how I see the world. And if I can get to there, then things start to get really interesting. Okay, so see, we're down here, and now we're in an interesting place. Fascinating reads. He's perceptive, writes clear as a bell. Difficult but worth the effort. Okay, that's okay. Grim but truthful. I like that sort of unpopular opinion. So I think this is going to be better. So let's see. So we end up with crowds and power, and I like this. I like how it says strips away the trappings of civilization and depicts human beings as what they are, base animals. On one hand, very extreme review, but then also this other person saying it's overrated gibberish. I love that kind of contrast. So what I'll usually do is I'll go and I will begin to look through Wikipedia, and I'll do two things when I get on Wikipedia. I start right here and I'll do a quick scan and I'll look for just different ideas that are a little different. So for example, this is really interesting. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1981, and we saw on the previous page that the frequently viewed sources were other novels and stuff. But this is his nonfiction book. So he won the Nobel Prize for Literature after he wrote this Crowds and Powers. What it looks like he has a really interesting background. So he has actual experiential knowledge of living in Nazi persecution camps that I can't relate to. And you'll see all of these awards. I like that. And then what I do is I come down here and I just look for different references to see if there's anything that catches my eye. The Kennedy House. Okay, this looks interesting. A Nobel Prize speech. Actually, Nobel Prize speeches are very underrated. Love this. Introduction, a companion to the works of Elias Kennedy. And boom, right here, I can find generally you can find, okay, so you can download an EPUB or a PDF here. And so I'll look through these sorts of things. Love this. Understanding. And then what I'll do after I leave archive.org, which is generally fantastic, and leave Wikipedia, is if I'm still looking for new ideas. So you can come down here to look for ideas, see what's been built off of Canetti's work. Is I'll go to Elias Canetti YouTube. And once I get on YouTube, I can generally, I'm in Mexico, so they are in Spanish here. But what I'll do is right here, find a 12-minute summary on YouTube, look through this, and
Historia de un sobreviviente.
Once I find some kind of video in English, I'll usually listen to a 10, 15-minute video in English. Then I will, if that's good, I'll read through the Wikipedia page. Right here, it doesn't look like there's any introduction into Canetti's ideas. So what I'll do is I'll just type in introduction, look for something that'll take me 20 or 30 minutes to read. Boom, counter image of society. I love that. Kind of implies that there's some new ideas in here. I'll look through this, try to find access in one of these, and then if I continue to like what I'll see, I'll just look, follow some of the hyperlinks, and boom, that gets me into a place where in an hour I can basically either at best know that I will find a new reader who I can spend a lot of time actually absorbing their material, or just have a short introduction to somebody who's really interesting, and then that ends up being a fun nightly activity. So that's my process. Kind of start on Amazon, follow the section at the bottom that focuses on customers who viewed this item also viewed, and begin to look for books that have very wide variance in reviews, change some people's lives, really didn't interest any other people's, then make my way to Wikipedia and to YouTube to actually do some quick research. Audio will generally help me out fast, and then as I get interested, I will make my way from summaries to long form interviews to then maybe even reading somebody's book.